In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my curriculum choices for my rising 11th grader for the 2024-2025 school year. Hey guys, welcome back to my Practically Imperfect Life. If you're joining for the first time, welcome to my channel. My name's Abby. I'm a homeschooling mom of 2 high schoolers, and next year, my oldest will be a senior and my youngest will be an 11th grader. So we are nearing the end of our homeschooling journey and it has been an amazing one. So here on my channel, I just take you along for the ride as we homeschool through high school, sharing the things we've learned along the way, what has worked, what has not worked, sharing resources and materials that I've found or created, and just trying to help you see that it is totally doable to homeschool through high school, and it can be an amazing experience for both you and for your kids. Now, planning for next year took me far longer than it had in any previous years, and I think that stems from the fact that my kids are starting to really hone in on what they want their plans to be after high school. What are their career goals? What are things that they look to do? And both of my kids have very different paths in mind. My oldest wants to go to college, play college golf. She has a particular degree field she wants to do. My son is really interested in pursuing trade school. We have several family members who work in various fields. We have some in HVAC, we have some who are electricians, and that is something that he has really felt would be a great option for him, something that he wants to look into more and start looking for opportunities to get some experience in those different fields. And so with him for next year, I wanted to, one, try to find things that would be beneficial to him, knowing that that's the career path he wants to go down. But I also wanted to take this opportunity to really look at the things that have been kind of our struggle points for the past few years. And rather than simply trying to find like the next most advanced thing for him to do, really try to troubleshoot those weak areas and build skills and then work up from there. And so as I show you the different curriculum picks for the different subjects, I'll talk a little bit about why I made some decisions that I did and why I did some big changes from things we have done in years past, and it's really all to just try to help build some strong skill sets that will help him be successful in that next stage after high school. All right, in no particular order, I'm going to go through the different subjects. I will talk a little bit about what I chose and then how I'm going to list it on the transcript. So in science, he is going to be doing physics next year, and we are going to be doing Discovering Design with Physics from Barium Builder. So this is written by Dr. J. Wiley. We love the books that he's written. We have used his textbooks many times over. I love his writing style. I love how he explains concepts. And everything he writes is super solid. Lots of great information, and my kids never fail to learn a ton from him. So this is his physics book. I haven't even unwrapped it yet. It just came in the mail not too long ago. Along with that, I do have the answer key and test booklet. So it has the answers to the study guide questions. It has the tests in here that I can photocopy for him to take along with the answers. I really like the answer keys that come with these programs. It's not just, hey, here's the answer. It's here's how you work out the entire problem. So if you like to do partial credit, you can do that. You can also kind of find where your student is like missing something and then help guide them the rest of the way. Physics is obviously very, very math heavy. So we want to make sure that he's doing each step of the different problems correctly. And then I picked this up at the Great Homeschool Convention. This is the student workbook. My daughter had done Apologia's version of physics last year, and there was no student workbook, and it drove me nuts. And it might seem silly, but I love these student workbooks. It has the questions, like the comprehension questions that go along with the reading. There is room in here for him to work them out. You know, the question is going to be right above the answer, so he doesn't have to like flip back to the textbook and see what the question was that he wrote an answer to in his notebook when he's studying for tests. There's also spots in the back for him to document things that he's learning from the labs. There are labs included in most chapters in this textbook. I haven't looked through the supply list yet, but typically what I do is I order the lab kits either from Nature's Workshop or Home Science Tools, depending on which ones carry it for a particular brand. they sell kits that you can go through their website by curriculum provider, and then by course, and then by what edition the textbook is. And then it will have pre-made kits with most of the stuff you need for the labs. That is extremely helpful, so you're not having to run around and try to find all of the different weird little things you need for a lab. They're just all included in the kit. I have most of the materials that my daughter used this past year, because a lot of them were things that they weren't consumable items. They're things that you could reuse. And I'll see how much it compares. If most of the things that were in her kit are things I can use for this, I might just go find those few things I'm missing. But if it looks like there's a lot of big differences, then I may just purchase a kit for that. So he will do that. It'll be on his transcript as a full credit for physics. Now for math, I thought a lot about what would be most appropriate for him to take for the next 2 years. And similar to how his sister is going to do dual enrolled math in her 12th grade year, I think that is what we will most likely do for him when he is a senior. But for next year, I made a pretty big change. I decided we were going to go back to a curriculum that we had used for many years that had always been successful for us, and that is Saxon math. We had pretty much raised the kids on Saxon math, and it was something that always worked really well. My son has done Shorman math for the last 2 years. He did their Algebra 1 with integrated geometry, and then their Algebra 2 with integrated geometry. So he has earned 3 math credits between those 2 courses. But the natural progression for that company is to go to pre-calculus, and my daughter did their pre-calculus course this past year, and we had just a really poor experience with it. And I thought a lot about if my son would have a different experience, given that he had been using Shorman for longer than she had, and he had seen kind of how he had taught things and had been just more familiar with the course overall. But after a lot of discussion with him, and also knowing what I do about how he solves math problems, he's very much a do it in his head kind of person. And knowing that he was really going to need to focus more on showing his work, working out these calculations, especially as we were getting into things like trigonometry, I thought it would be best if we went back to Saxon. So we're going to do Saxon's Advanced Mathematics. This comes as a student textbook, so there is a lesson for him to read each day, and then there will be some different practice problems for him to do, and then an assignment. Now, Saxon is pretty well known for their spiral method of learning, so when you do a lesson, it doesn't just have problems introducing that new concept. You will do several problems on that new concept, but then you are doing review of things you have learned previously. And it is nice because right there on the pages, it will actually tell you which lesson each question refers back to. So if he doesn't remember something, he can flip back to that lesson and see it. And the whole idea is that by continually reviewing these concepts, you master them. It's not just do it for a couple of days and then forget about it. Instead, you really get that ingrained knowledge of how to work those problems. And I think that will work really well for him. I also think him having to write out all of the problems on paper and me being able to see all of the steps that he's done, being able to see quickly where he's made an error if he does, and help guide him to fixing that and being able to get to the correct answer. I think that will just be helpful for him. I will also be getting the solution manual. So along with the student textbook, there is a solution manual. I love their solution manuals. They are the best things in the world because for every single problem in the assignments and for the tests, it shows me every single step to solve them. So in addition to the math curriculum itself, so I have the textbook, the solution manual, and the test kit, I'm also going to get him a subscription to Nicole the Math Lady. And this is another change. We had used the dive tutorial videos the last time my kids were both using Saxon math. But I met Nicole the Math Lady at the homeschool convention. I thought she was really personable. I really liked how she was explaining different math concepts, and she does math tutorial videos that go along with Saxon math. And they're online, so he can log on, he can watch them. The videos run anywhere from 7 to 15 minutes, and she'll introduce the different concepts, go through practice problems, and I think that will be a really nice change for him. Just having somebody different teaching the lessons, and he is a visual learner. He does like to see things worked out. He likes to watch people present information. And I think that will help him learn concepts better than simply reading the lesson in the textbook. Of course, I want him to read it in the textbook and watch the videos, but I just think that that will be a benefit for him. Now, based off the description of the Saxon course, I am going to put it on his transcript as pre-calculus. I think even though it does have some geometry and trigonometry being covered, there is a heavy focus on pre-calculus concepts, so I think that will be adequate for his transcript. Now, the next two subjects I'm really excited about because I think I have found a way to help these subjects kind of go hand in hand. So that's our history courses and our English courses. For history, he is going to be doing American History Year 1 from Guest Hollow. This is an early American history focus. And I am such a huge fan of Guest Hollow courses. If you guys have watched for any length of time, you know I love their courses. These are non-traditional courses. There's no textbook, there's no tests, there's no quizzes. Instead, they bring together a ton of different resources to help your student learn about a given subject. Now, for this course in particular, it does come with an online textbook. So there are reading assignments where he can go on, he'll read certain sections. They have embedded videos. They're just very, very well done. Then there is what we call the schedule, and I'll just kind of give like a quick peek here. I have not done a full video on the American history. I do have plans to do that, kind of giving you guys a deep dive into this because they recently created a junior version of this course that's meant for kind of your middle grade students. It's really awesome if you want to do family style learning for history because the kind of the timeline of what you're studying is the same for both your younger students and your older students. It's just that the material then is age appropriate for the different grades. And they've created like a beautiful online textbook for that as well, or a beautiful, like you can get it as a PDF, the textbook, and people have been just raving about that. They're also going to be having another version of this for like very young students, so your early elementary students, so you could really teach this course to all of the different ages. And I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be sure to kind of give you guys more of a deep dive of this in the future. But as I said, it's non-traditional. So they have the online textbook, and then you have the schedule, and it will tell your student what to read from lots of different books. There is a beautiful book list, just all different kinds of great things that they will be reading from throughout the course of the year. There's hands-on activities, there are videos that they can watch, so documentaries, full-length movies, YouTube videos, there are online resources to use. I usually print off the schedule. This is kind of my guide, so it comes with like a book list of all of the different books we need, what weeks we need them for. So, you know, I could go and just get them from the library or find them online. I love an excuse to buy books, so I usually just start shopping for good deals and I add to my bookshelf. So I've been slowly starting to collect the different books for this course that he'll use throughout the year. And then I'll spiral bind this, and then I also spiral bind the student workbook. So this is another PDF that comes with the course. They're always beautifully done. She's got gorgeous illustrations in there. And these oftentimes will follow along with the online textbook. So he'll do a reading assignment on there each day, answer the different questions. Sometimes there's some really good discussion prompts in here as well. And since there are no tests or quizzes, I grade these types of courses by, one, the workbook, so making sure that that's filled out. If we're doing projects or hands-on activities, I give credit for those, but then I also do narration journals. I love narration journals because it's a great way for my kids to tell me what they've been learning about, to see what it is that they have found most interesting, and just kind of check their understanding. So he'll do like a daily narration where he'll write interesting things that he's learned from the different books or videos that he's been watching. Sometimes I might give him a prompt. He can put in illustrations and sketches, and it really just becomes a wonderful way to see where their learning is at on this subject. Now, I mentioned that I felt like I had this going hand in hand with our English curriculum because he has not yet done a year of American literature where we're focusing just on American authors. In addition to like the nonfiction books that are included in the Guest Hollow course that he's reading, you know, little bits from each day, there are suggestions for longer novels to read. And one thing that has always been kind of a struggle is that I really wanted him to read the novels, the fiction books, because they're great for helping to build your understanding about time periods. But how do I give him enough time to do the nonfiction reading for the course, plus the fiction reading for the course, plus reading for his English class, and so on and so forth? It's a lot. It's a lot of reading. And I really wanted to see if I could kind of create a literature course utilizing a lot of the books that are suggested in this course and find a way to make that part of his English course. So let me go grab all of his English materials and I'll explain how we are going to handle English 11 for him. And before I forget, this is going to go on his transcript as early American history. All right, so English. I have always felt like a high school English course should cover a couple of things. You should read great literature and analyze it. You should practice writing skills, writing papers of different types and different lengths, vocabulary review and building your vocabulary further, and then grammar review. In high school, you probably have learned most grammar concepts. It's more keeping them at the front of your brain. So for vocabulary, we are going to continue having him do Wordly Wise. He's going to do the level 11 book. So that comes with the student textbook. It's got 20 lessons, and then each lesson has 5 different subparts, so A, B, C, D, E. And we've just done it where he's done one assignment each day, and then at the end of each lesson, there's like a quiz for that lesson. I have the test booklets for it. I just photocopy those out of there and have him do those. And it has worked really well for the last couple of years. I felt like it's really done a great job of building my kids' vocabulary. My daughter did this one this past year and said it was pretty good for helping her get ready for the SAT. So we're going to continue to do that. That will be his vocabulary focus. Now for grammar, he has been using Fix-It Grammar, and he's completed all of the Fix-It Grammar programs. He finished level 6 this past year, and that's the last one that they have. And I could just say, okay, well, we're done. We're not going to do any more grammar, but it's one of those areas where it's just kind of always been, I don't want to say like a real weakness for him, but it's just not an area he's super strong in. And so I would rather him do something that's going to be reviewing grammar concepts this year than to just forget about it completely. I came across this at the convention. This is the Easy Grammar Ultimate Series, grade 11, 180 daily teaching lessons. So it comes with a student workbook and a teacher edition. So there's the 2 parts. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a very quick little recap of things and then a quick little assignment to help him review. For writing, we're going to continue to use IEW courses. My daughter had done an essay intensive from them several years ago, which I think has since been discontinued. They've done a revamped course that's kind of a college writing course. However, they still had the Elegant Essay available. The Elegant Essay is a mini unit. It only takes a couple of weeks to go through, but it really focuses in hard on quality essay writing, really deep diving into each step of the essay writing process, lots of practice on things like transitions and thesis statements and making sure that everything kind of flows together and that arguments agree with each other from paragraph to paragraph. This is something that I just really feel like will be good for him. I'm planning to have him do quite a bit of essay writing with relation to the books he's going to be reading and as part of those kind of end of the book assignments as opposed to just a bunch of tests. And I just want him to get some good review on this. This is an area that has just been a weak spot and I really want us to focus in hard on it. So we're going to spend the first couple of weeks going through the Elegant Essay. Once he has completed that, I do have a theme-based unit study to have him do. And I'm doing the advanced U.S. history-based writing lesson. So since we're studying U.S. history for history this year, why don't we write about it as well? And the theme-based lessons at the start of the week, there are a couple of introduction pages that he'll read for that lesson. It'll talk about what the focus is or what key skill they're practicing. There will be a reading assignment within there and then a writing assignment. Usually there is one writing assignment a week ranging from 1 paragraph to 5 paragraphs. Oftentimes if it's a 5-paragraph assignment, they're given 2 weeks to work on it. And that will be most of his writing work, but I will be assigning occasionally assigning papers for some of the literature. But let me show you the last component of English, because this is another kind of big change for us, but one that I think will be really great. All right, I mentioned how I felt like I could bring history and English together and kind of make them complement each other. And in the Guest Hallow history course, there are lots of great suggestions for fiction books to read throughout the year. But we'd always struggled with having enough time to read those assignments plus do the reading assignments for our literature courses. My son has used BJU literature for like 6 years. He used it for all of his middle school English courses. He used it for literature for his freshman and sophomore year. And I've talked in a few recent videos about just, I don't know, feeling like it was time for a change for him. Like we just weren't getting everything out of those courses that we could. They're very teacher intensive. You really do need to sit down and do a lot of discussion with your students and pointing out different things with your students, because unless you're using the teacher guide and going through a story with them, they're going to miss a lot of things. And I always disliked the fact that they weren't reading full novels. In fact, I would usually change the lesson plans in order to, shorten what we were doing with BJU to add in full novel studies. So this year, I decided that I wasn't going to buy a formal literature curriculum, but I knew I really wanted him to read some great literature. So I sat down and I made a list. What are some great books that I think should be read? And I wanted to kind of keep it towards American literature, because we needed to do a year of American literature and we were getting ready to study U.S. history. So I made a big list of books. And then I looked at the Guest Hallow curriculum. I looked at books that they suggested and which ones did they suggest that were also on my list and which ones kind of fit with the time frame. And I ended up creating a book list. Now, this isn't a solid list of books. In fact, this lists my weeks from weeks 1 through 35. But I have a list of dramas, books, novels of various lengths that we are going to have him read this year. And instead of using a traditional literature curriculum, as he's reading these books, I have a couple of different study guides that I've purchased off Teacher Pay Teachers. Now, I thought the easiest way to show you our full book list and everywhere that I found a study guide would be to just put it up here on the screen for you. So in order, we're going to have him read The Crucible, The Scarlet Letter, The Last of the Mohicans, Common Sense, The Autobiography of Ben Franklin, Copper Sun, and Uncle Tom's Cabin. And here you can see where on Teacher Pay Teachers I found all of the different study guides we're going to be using. And then after that, he's going to move into the next round of books. That is going to include The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, The Narrative Life of Frederick Douglass, The Red Badge of Courage, White Fang. We're going to do a study on American poets and short stories, and then we're going to read The Children's Blizzard. So The Children's Blizzard is the only one that I don't have a study guide for, but I think we will just end up writing a paper at the end of the year for that one. I've got the Teacher Pay Teacher guides. Those I'm going to put all into a binder, and I'll separate them out with tabs so he knows which one goes with which book. That will be part of his daily assignments. Some of them I won't do any kind of a final assignment for, like The Autobiography of Ben Franklin or Common Sense. Pretty short. I don't think it's really worth to assign like a long paper for. But when we get to something like Copper Sun or Red Badge of Courage or White Fang, those are great books to have him go ahead and write a good solid essay on. That's why I wanted to do the elegant essay at the start of the year. So by the time we got to some of those books that I knew I was going to be assigning an essay for, he had all of that information on hand. Some of the guides do give options for tests and quizzes. I will kind of pick and choose which ones I will want to do. But I think this will be a cool way to approach literature for him. And you might say, well, is he going to miss out on, doing like that literature analysis, understanding characterization or setting or tone and all of that? Well, I've actually looked at a lot of these guides and I tried to pick ones that do include discussion on those things, highlighting where you find those things in the different books, having a couple of questions and assignments that will teach those things. So I don't think he's going to miss out on any of that. What he is going to get is the opportunity to read some really great American literature. and be able to read it at a reasonable pace, not feel like he has to rush through it. Have some time for us to sit and talk about it, time for him to really think about the main themes of those books, work on some papers. And if we get behind on a book and we have to spread it out a little further, that's okay. I'm okay with that. So all of these books cover the same time period that his history course covers. And the way I've kind of layered them or assigned them to different weeks, I'm trying to make them match up as much as possible to what he's studying in the American history course. So see how it's all just going to flow together nicely. Hopefully, that's the goal, is to make it all flow together nicely. All right, let's talk about electives, because I'm really excited for this elective that my son is doing. As I mentioned, he wants to go to a trade school. He's very interested in electronics. He loves to build things. And I stumbled across this booth at the Homeschool convention. I had never heard of this company. And this is why I love the conventions, because you find out about things you didn't know. The company's called Applied Inspirations, LLC, and I'll link them down below. And this is an electronics curriculum. It's a hands-on electronics curriculum. In this course, and I'll just read the description here, you learn how to solder and unsolder, read schematics, use a digital multimeter, identify components and their functions, and use an oscilloscope. I don't even know what an oscilloscope is. But there's a part 1 and a part 2. So part 1 is basic electronics. Learn basic electronics theory and practice. There's 10 theory build teaching modules, starting with passive components. Then diodes and transistors are used to build an active control circuit in an amplifier. The final sections use analog and digital integrated circuits to teach the basics of working with an operational amplifier and digital logic gates. The skills and knowledge in this section are put to use to build the more advanced part 2. I don't know what half of that means, but my son does. So, and then the part 2 is building an LED array oscilloscope. And then they're working on creating more advanced parts from there. So what comes with this, and this, I'm not gonna lie, this was a pricey kit to buy. It was pricey, but I feel like it's worth it because it's something that's gonna help prepare him for potential careers. So you get the part 1, it's got the binder, and then there is a little USB drive there and some information on that as well. But this is what you'll pop into your computer, and it will cover the part 1, what he needs to be learning. There's also some printed pages in here, different drawings and schematics and some instructions. So there's that. I don't know what that means, but he will. And then you have your parts for this. Then part 2 has its own binder, and again it has its own USB drive. So this is really like where like the course material is on, and I'm gonna pop that in and see if there's anything extra that I need to print out and stuff. But again, the schematics in there, all of the supplies that he needs in order to build this part 2. And then they had recommended the starter toolkit, which I went ahead and I got. So he's got all kinds of different tools in this. I don't know what any of this stuff is for, guys. Please don't ask me. But maybe somebody will. Tin lead, rosin core, solder, safety glasses. There's a soldering iron stand. There's a soldering iron in here. So, you know, I did tell him, I was like, when you do this, please don't burn my house down. And then there is a stand that they recommended. It's meant to help like hold different parts up, so that way, you know, you can be working on something and then check your materials and then work and not have to, you know, set things down and move over there. It was just something that they recommended. Anyways, I went ahead and I purchased both parts of this kit, and I think this will be really fascinating for him. He's going to learn a lot about electronics. I mean, the gentleman who I talked to, the founder who wrote the curriculum, is obviously a field that he's an expert in. He's been working in that field for decades. He was very personable. He was really talking to me about how the course works, and this whole idea that, you know, each step of the way, you have to get the previous step right or the next step won't work. Because I asked him, I said, well, how would I grade something like this? And he goes, well, does it work? Because if you go to step 2 and you didn't do step 1 right, step 2 is never going to work. So you got to make sure step 1 works. then that tells you they got it done. Then they got to do step 2, make sure that works before they, move on from there. So it's this whole idea that you're building upon it step by step. I don't know how long this is going to take him to do. I think it just depends on how how excited he gets about it. If it's something he really wants to dive into and spend a lot of time on, he might move through these quickly. It might take him the whole semester. It might take him the whole year. I don't know. But I'm really excited for him to get a chance to try this out. I'm going to put this on the transcript as Introduction to Electronics and give him a full year credit for it. At least that's the plan right now, is to give him a full year credit for it. We'll just kind of see how things roll with it. But I will link the website down below. If you have a student who has an interest in electronics or likes to build or is wanting to go into that field, I really think it's worth looking into. Like I said, it was expensive. The kits are expensive. You're getting all of these pieces that I don't know what they are. But I'm being very careful not to break anything. Plus, I got him the tools that he's going to need. And, and that added to the cost. But hopefully this will be a worthwhile investment, something that will really help him. All right, next is his Bible study elective. Every year we do a full year credit for Bible study with a different focus. So he's done a year of apologetics, Old Testament study, New Testament study. This coming year we're going to do a focus on the early church. And we utilize curriculum that comes from Concordia Publishing House. That is a Lutheran publishing company. We're Lutheran. I like to try to find curriculum when I can that is written from that perspective. We are finishing up, at the start of next year, we're going to finish up the For God So Loved, a study of the Gospel of John. We started that this year, didn't quite finish it. I do want him to get the rest of the way through it. And then he's going to move into God's Plan Unfolds, the Church from Nazareth to Nicaea. There is a teacher guide that goes with this, but the teacher guide is really not necessary if you wanted to use this with your student. The teacher guide really provides information if you're teaching it to like a class. It has a lot of group activities and, discussion leading and things like that. But you can simply get the student book and follow that, and that works just fine. Every day there is usually a reading assignment, like an intro to what the topic is that day, certain parts of the Bible that you're reading or certain verses, and then there are discussion questions in the book and space to write in your answers. So I'm going to have him work through this over the course of the year as part of his Bible study. We also like to do daily devotionals. Now we are moving away from doing group subjects next year. I'll talk about that in my Q4 wrap-up video about why we're making that change next year. But I do continue to want my kids to do the daily Grace Co. Bible studies. It's what we've been using for the last few years. I really like them. Now for him, I got the same studies I got for my daughter, except I got the men's version. So for certain studies on their website, they have a women's version and a men's version, and I appreciate the different perspectives that are given on things. I've gotten my husband a couple of the men's studies before, and my son's done a few of their men's studies before, so I figured if it was available, I would get it. So he will do Come and See, a study of the Gospel of John, Fighting with Faith, a study on the book of Philippians, and then I Am, Who Jesus Is Changes Everything. I did also get both of my kids Fear Not, Gospel Hope for Worried Teens. This is a shorter one, and it's the only one out of all of these that was particularly noted to be for teens. I just figured it was a good topic to have them do. They're getting older. They're getting ready to face a lot of big moments in life, and I know that anxiety and worry can be something that can really creep up on teenagers, especially as they approach graduation and going off to college or trade school or whatever the next stage of life is. So I wanted to include that one. That will be a full year credit on his transcript. It'll be marked Bible study, early church history, or something along those lines. My teens and I have really gotten into listening to podcasts from the Bible Project and watching their theme videos. And one of their Bible scholars on there, their primary Bible scholar, actually studied biblical Hebrew. That was one of his focus studies when he was going through school and getting his doctorate. And my daughter thought that it would be cool if we learned some biblical Hebrew. And I did find a course for us to go ahead and try out. So my kids will work on this kind of as part of their school day. We're not going to necessarily do it as a group subject, but they'll study it individually. But I'm also going to do the workbook activities as well because I want to learn this too. But this is Learning Biblical Hebrew, or the Basics of Biblical Hebrew. And I believe it's the 2.0 edition. Now, I ordered this from christianbooks.com. It has not arrived yet. It's back ordered till the middle of June. So hopefully it will arrive before too long, so that way I can start doing some lesson planning with it. But it is a bundle, and you can purchase all of the different pieces separately if you want, or you can get them all together. I just figured I would get them all together. We probably will utilize all of them. But the things that are going to be included in this kit are a workbook with different exercises to do, 36 video lectures. I think what we'll probably do is like one lecture a week would be my guess, but there's video lectures. There's a compact guide that goes over grammar, paradigms, the lexicon. There are vocabulary cards, 1,000 of them. A link to a vocabulary audio guide where you can hear the pronunciations of these different words, which I think will be extremely helpful because I'm not familiar with the language at all, so I can't help them with those pronunciations until I've learned it myself. So that'll be really helpful. And then there's a laminated reference guide. And this will go on the transcript as Biblical Hebrew Year 1. All right, and then lastly, my son is going to do 2 one-semester electives. And these are electives that I actually have created and written myself. The first one he will do in the fall is a practical life skills curriculum. And this is one that I actually have a launch video coming out for next week, introducing it, talking about all of the topics it covers, and then it'll be available in my shop, which is linked below. This stemmed from conversations I had with my daughter, who's a year older than my son, and talking about things that she wished she knew, or things that she was kind of discovering she didn't know. Things about car maintenance, paperwork for first jobs, taxes, all of that. In fact, like my son had to do his taxes this year because he had us a job, and we were walking him through the steps of doing that and filing his taxes and all of those things. And I realized there's probably a lot of skills that I should make sure that my kids have related to everything from business etiquette and resumes and interviews to basic finances, understanding taxes, understanding your pay stub, understanding insurance, purchasing a home, purchasing a car, creating a budget, basic home repairs. You know, what do you do if your toilet's overflowing? How do you check your sump pump to make sure it's working? How do you change your house filter? I mean, just all different kinds of really basic things that you don't realize you need to know until you're out on your own and you're like, I don't know it. So from that, I created a one-semester curriculum, and I'm gonna, like I said, the launch video will talk more in detail about that. That's coming out next week, and they will work on that in the fall semester. Then in the spring semester, they are going to do a mental health course. And this is one I'm in the process of writing right now. I've gotten through all of the research. I've been looking at research papers, books, watching videos, just putting a bunch of different things together. I'm in the writing stages now, trying to, put it together in a way that I feel is engaging. It's a hard subject to make, fun, but it's going to cover certain common mental health diagnoses such as anxiety and depression, how those are treated, ways to protect and keep your own mental health in good shape, dealing with stress and things like that. So I'm working on putting that together. My goal is to have that written hopefully by early fall so we can use it in the spring. And just like with the Practical Life Skills course, I will do a video about it and I will release it in my store when it is ready. All right, those are all of the things that my son will be using for his 11th grade year. I think the changes we are making are going to be good ones. We are really focusing on areas where we have noted that we need to make improvements, skills that we know we need to work on more, such as showing our work in math, writing those quality essays. We're also going to do a lot of practice with good note-taking skills. I just think that what we're going to be doing will help with all of that, and I'm excited. I'm excited to get into all of this curriculum. I will link websites and videos down below for you. If you have questions about anything that we are using or how I'm going to put it on transcripts or credits, anything like that, drop a comment down below in the description box. And if you want to see what we have been using in the past, I do have all of my curriculum choice videos linked in my curriculum playlist. That is down below for you as well. Be sure to like and subscribe so that way you can get notified when that launch video comes out next week. Again, that'll be on Tuesday. That will be the Practical Life Skills course, introducing that and telling you all about it, as well as having it available in the shop. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Happy homeschooling, and I'll see you in the next one.